In the heart of West Africa, nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, lay the village of Nkwo. It was a place where time seemed to move slower, where the rhythms of life were dictated by the seasons, and where the air was filled with the scent of earth after rain. The villagers lived simple lives, bound by tradition and community. Their days began with the crowing of roosters and ended with the soft glow of lanterns illuminating mud brick homes. The village was small but vibrant, with a bustling market at its center, where women sold fresh produce, colorful fabrics, and handmade pottery. Children ran barefoot through the streets, their laughter echoing against the backdrop of drum beats during festivals. It was a place where everyone knew everyone, and where the bonds of family and friendship were as strong as the ancient baobab tree that stood at the village's edge. Among the villagers was Adaeze, the daughter of Obi, a humble farmer. Adaeze was known for her radiant smile and her kind heart. She had grown up in Nkwo, learning the ways of the land from her father. Her mother had passed away when she was young, leaving Obi to raise her alone. Despite the hardships, Obi had done his best to provide for Adaeze, instilling in her a strong work ethic and a deep respect for their traditions. Adaeze spent her days helping her father on the farm, planting yams, cassava, and maize. In the evenings, she would join the other women at the market, selling their harvest and exchanging stories. Her life was predictable, but she found joy in the little things: the laughter of children, the wisdom of the elders, and the warmth of her father's love. But all of that changed the day a stranger arrived in Nkwo. The stranger's name was Chidi, or so he introduced himself. He was tall and handsome, with a confident stride that turned heads as he walked through the market. His clothes, though dusty from travel, were finer than anything the villagers had seen. He claimed to be a trader from a distant city, looking for new opportunities. The villagers were curious but cautious. Strangers were rare in Nkwo, and while they were welcomed, they were also watched closely. Chidi quickly became a regular at Adaeze's stall, buying yams and engaging her in conversation. He was unlike anyone she had ever met, charming, intelligent, and genuinely interested in her thoughts. Over time, their conversations grew longer, and Adaeze found herself looking forward to his visits. Her father, Obi, however, was wary. He had lived long enough to know that not all that glitters is gold, and he warned Adaeze to be careful. But Adaeze, young and full of hope, dismissed his concerns. She was falling in love. As the weeks turned into months, Chidi became a part of Adaeze's life. He would join her on the farm, helping with the harvest, and in the evenings, they would sit by the fire, sharing stories. Chidi spoke of distant lands, of cities with towering buildings, and markets filled with exotic goods. Adaeze, in turn, shared the traditions of her village, the festivals, the dances, and the stories passed down through generations. She told him about the new Yam Festival, where the villagers gave thanks to the gods for a bountiful harvest, and about the moonlight gatherings, where elders told tales of ancestors and spirits. Chidi listened intently, his eyes filled with wonder, but there was always a shadow in his gaze, a sadness he couldn't hide. One night, as the fire crackled and the village slept, Chidi finally opened up. "Adaeze," he said, his voice trembling, "there's something I need to tell you. I'm not who you think I am." He revealed that he was a prince, the son of a powerful king from a neighboring kingdom. He had fled his home after a coup threatened his life. Adaeze was stunned. A prince? Here, in her village? She didn't know whether to feel honored or betrayed, but before she could process it all, Chidi took her hand and said, "I didn't tell you because I wanted you to love me for who I am, not for my title." Adaeze's world was turned upside down. She loved Chidi, but his revelation brought with it a wave of uncertainty. What did it mean for their future? Could a farmer's daughter truly be with a prince? Her father's warnings echoed in her mind, but her heart refused to let go. Chidi, too, was torn. He had found peace in Nkwo, a peace he hadn't known in years. But his past was a storm that refused to be silenced. One morning, the village woke up to the sound of horses and armed men. They were looking for the runaway prince. The villagers, terrified, turned to Adaeze and her father for answers. Adaeze was faced with an impossible choice. She loved Chidi, but she couldn't bear to see her village suffer because of him. "You have to leave," she told him, her voice breaking. "I can't choose between you and my people." Chidi nodded, his heart heavy. He understood. But before he left, he made her a promise. "I will come back for you," he said, "when it's safe." Months passed, and Adaeze heard nothing from Chidi. She threw herself into her work, trying to fill the void he had left behind. The village returned to its normal rhythm, but Adaeze's heart remained heavy. She missed Chidi's laughter, his stories, and the way he made her feel seen. Her father, Obi, watched her with a heavy heart. He had always wanted the best for his daughter, but he couldn't protect her from the pain of love. One day, a messenger arrived in the village. He carried a letter from Chidi. The prince had reclaimed his throne and was now the king. He wanted Adaeze to join him in the palace. The letter was filled with promises of a life of luxury, of love, of a future together. But it also came with a choice. Adaeze was torn. Could she leave her village, her father, and the life she had always known? Or would she stay, choosing the familiar over the unknown? Adaeze's decision weighed heavily on her. She spent nights staring at the stars, searching for answers. Her father, sensing her turmoil, sat her down one evening. "Adaeze," he said, his voice gentle, "life is full of choices. Some are easy and some are hard, but the most important thing is to follow your heart. Whatever you decide, know that I will always support you." His words brought her comfort, but they didn't make the decision any easier. In the end, Adaeze chose love. She packed her belongings, said goodbye to her father, and set off for the palace. The journey was long and arduous, but her heart was filled with hope. She imagined her life with Chidi, the love they would share, the family they would build. But when she arrived at the palace, she was met with a reality she hadn't anticipated. The palace was grand, with towering walls and opulent halls, but it was also cold and unfamiliar. The people there looked at her with suspicion, whispering behind her back. Adaeze felt out of place, like a fish out of water. Chidi, now the king, was kind and loving, but he was also burdened by the responsibilities of his role. He had little time for her, and when they were together, their conversations felt strained. Adaeze missed the simplicity of her village, the warmth of her father's embrace, and the sense of belonging she had always known. She began to wonder if she had made the right choice. One day, as she wandered the palace gardens, she overheard a conversation between two courtiers. They spoke of Chidi's upcoming marriage to a princess from a neighboring kingdom. Adaeze's heart shattered. She confronted Chidi, demanding the truth. He looked at her with guilt in his eyes. "It's not what you think," he said. "The marriage is political to secure an alliance. It doesn't change how I feel about you." But Adaeze couldn't accept that. She had left everything behind for him, only to be reduced to a secret. Heartbroken and disillusioned, Adaeze made the difficult decision to return to her village. She packed her belongings and left the palace without saying goodbye. The journey back was long and lonely, but it gave her time to reflect. She realized that love, while powerful, wasn't enough to build a life on. She needed more, a sense of purpose, a connection to her roots, and the love of her family. When she arrived in Nkwo, her father was waiting for her. He opened his arms, and she fell into them, tears streaming down her face. "Welcome home, my daughter," he said. Adaeze knew then that she had made the right choice. She returned to her life on the farm, finding solace in the familiar rhythms of the village. Over time, the pain of her loss faded, replaced by a sense of peace and contentment. Years later, Adaeze married a kind man from the village, someone who loved her for who she was and shared her values. They built a life together, filled with love, laughter, and the joy of raising a family. Adaeze never forgot Chidi, but she no longer regretted her decision. She had learned that true happiness comes from within, from staying true to oneself and embracing the love of those who matter most. As for Chidi, he never forgot Adaeze either. He often thought of her, of the love they had shared, and the life they might have had. But he knew that some choices, once made, cannot be undone. And so, he carried her memory in his heart, a reminder of the girl from Nkwo who had taught him the true meaning of love.